What's going on, guys? Welcome to your C programming tutorial. And in this tutorial, as I said, we'll see how to take an array input from the user. But before that, let me just tell you something about character arrays. I just forgot to tell you that. Now we'll do something here. We'll be using character arrays to store and manipulate strings. Okay, till now whatever we discussed was only integer arrays. Okay, it was just integer and integer. Now, however, I just told you at the beginning that arrays are capable of holding data type, any data type. Okay, now we'll discuss storing strings in integer arrays. Now, character arrays, they have several unique features. A character array, let me show you how to initialize it. It will be, you can initialize a character array by using a string literal. For example, if I say I'll take char and I'll call it a string 1, I'll call it string 1, then not square braces. Then to initialize it, I can just put double quotes as character FIRST first. Okay, what this did was it just initializes the element of the array string 1 to the individual characters in the string literal. Okay, this is the string literal first. Now what we would think is this is an array which can store 5 elements. Okay, now what we will think is this will just store 5 elements, but actually now in character array, when you come, it'll have a string termination character, and we call it as null character. Okay, so there'll be extra in this, so it is represented by a backslash and a 0. It will be something like this, backslash and a 0. This will be the null character. So all the strings in C end with this character. Okay, a character array representing a string should always be defined large enough to hold the number of characters in the string, and it should terminate with the null character. Now there's another way you can define it individually. I'll show you. To define it with individual character constant, all we'll have to do is we'll have to take up the curly braces and we'll have to define individual character. Okay, now this was F, then I'll take I inside of course the single quotes. Similarly the rest of the things, and T. So, and don't forget to put the null character, that's way too important in this. Okay, so now you can also access the individual characters. Okay, because string is really an array of characters. We can access individual characters in the string directly using the subscript. Okay, for example, if I say it is like string 1 it was, and we'll have to just put the subscript or the index number of it to access the individual character. Okay, so that's those are the ways you can define the string. And this was you left the square braces empty, so it would the system would figure out, the computer would figure out about the characters. And if you specify 20 over here, it'll just take 20 characters. That's it. 20 characters in a way, like 19 will be characters and 1 will be for the null character. Okay, don't forget that. If it is 20, 19 will go for the characters which you type, and 1 would go for the null character. And make sure every time you use the character string, you should have a null character at the end. So now let's see how to take input from the user in the form of array. Okay, to do that, all you'll have to do is we'll have to obviously use a scanf, and we'll have to use the conversion specifier as s because it is a string, and the string name as it was string 1, I guess. Okay, so I'll just write it there, and I'll just say it stores 20 elements. It's 19 characters, and 1 will be the null character. So what this does is you might be thinking, hey Ash, you forgot to write an ampersand over here, the address operator. But let me tell you, in the case of arrays, it's not necessary to write the ampersand. The value of an array name is the address of the start of an array. As I said here, it'll be arrays are itself memory blocks, so the 0th element will point to the memory location. So you don't need an ampersand. It's not necessary to put an ampersand. The function scanf, it'll just read the characters until it'll encounter a space or a tab or maybe a new line. Okay, so now you might be thinking, no, how do I limit the user to input the number of characters you want? So to do that, all you have to write is specify the number. Like if I write 19 here, all he can do is he can enter just 19 characters. Sometimes in program it happens like, you want the user to put just 19 characters, and it might happen sometimes that if it goes beyond that, your program might crash. So using 19 in the scanf will restrict the user to put only 19 characters. And remember, putting 19 in the printf will give space of 19 characters. Don't get confused with that. Now let's take up a program to get input from the user. So guys, I've just written down the code to save a bit of time. So now what I've done here is I've just taken a string array of 20 characters. So as you can see, I've just initialized the character array with string literal. I've just initialized the character array with string literal. I've just put in my name over there, and I've taken another variable int I for my for loop. Okay, so I'll just prompt the user to enter a string. So, and then in the next step, I'll just read it using scanf, and I told you why we don't use ampersand over here, because it's not necessary, as array itself is a memory block, so you don't need the ampersand over here to point it out. Now in this print statement, I'll just print out what was the string entered by the user, that is string 1, and what was the string 2, that is this thing, my name. And then I'll print the string 1 with spaces between it. Okay, so I've just used the for loop for that. So what I'll do here is I'll just take the individual arrays. Now if I enter, uh, something like cat, so what this would do is it would take the first character from that string. It would take C from it, put a space, then it will take A, then put a space, then it will take a T, then put a space, and the for loop, it will loop till it encounters a space or the null character. Okay, so let's just build and run it. As you can see, it is prompting me to enter a string. I'll just say good. Oh god, good. Okay, so as you can see here, it says string 1 is good, string 2 is my name, Ashish Sharma. Now string 1 with white spaces, what it did was it just took the first character from the string, it had put a space, and then it took the second character from the string and it put a space over here. So now, as I said, if I limit the user to input just 2 characters, let's see what happens. Now enter a string, I'll just say Ash. I took 3 characters and I had told to take 2 characters. Okay, so if I print it out, you can see over here it just took 2 characters. String 1 is AS, it didn't take the third one, and string 2 it was my name, and in the last one we just printed out with a space between them. Okay, I just cleaned it up. So that's it for this tutorial, guys. I'll see you in the next tutorial. And if you have any doubt, please leave a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye.